Tonight, the U.S. has struck 3 nuclear sites in Iran, the president has said. These strikes come after over a week of ongoing missile attack between Iran and Israel. Overnight in northern Minnesota, severe weather struck, especially in Beltrami County, where a state of emergency has been declared after flooding and intense wind gusts. Plus, this weekend, thousands have descended on Duluth for a yearly tradition, Grandma's Marathon. We'll hear from runners and spectators alike, and we'll bring you results from this morning's action.
WDIO News at 10 starts now.
Well, it was a beautiful day to be outside by the lake and a welcome break before tomorrow's big heat wave. You're looking live at Bayfront Festival Park, where Grandma's festivities are starting to wind down as thousands hit the streets for this year's marathon after a 30-minute weather delay this morning. Now tonight we're preparing for widespread dangerous heat that'll be followed by more storms. Meteorologist Sabrina Ullman will have a first look at the forecast in just a few minutes here. But we start tonight with breaking world news in the Middle East as President Trump addressed the nation earlier tonight, just hours after the U.S. carried out what he has called very successful strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities. 2 U.S. officials confirmed to ABC News that B-2 stealth bombers were used in the attacks. ABC's Marcus Moore has the latest from Tel Aviv.
Just hours after announcing the U.S. successfully struck 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, President Trump addressing the nation this evening.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
Last Thursday, President Trump had set a 2-week deadline to decide whether the U.S. would join the Israelis and help strike Iran's nuclear facilities. But the president and his national security team opting to carry out this military operation now.
We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue.
This comes after sources told ABC News multiple B-2 stealth bombers were headed to Guam. It's unclear if these were the bombers used in the strikes. Those bombers are the only U.S. aircraft capable of dropping the 30,000-pound explosive that could potentially damage or destroy Iran's Fordo nuclear facility, which is buried deep underground in a mountain. Satellite imagery could help determine whether these strikes took out the Fordo facility, but experts say the only way to really know is to get someone on the ground.
Considering how Mossad has been operating with impunity inside of Iran in an extraordinary way, maybe the Israelis have the ability to go in and to find ways to at least make sure that those bunkers at Fordo have been taken out.
And now concerns over Iran's promised retaliation. The State Department says it has been evacuating U.S. diplomats and their families who wish to leave the region. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei had already threatened retaliation against the U.S. if it attacked Iran. Marcus Moore, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
Back to the Northland now as we hand off to our Sabrina Ullman. Sabrina, you are tracking some wet weather.
Yeah, Alex, we had some pretty strong storms last night, and a lot of these moved over the same areas where we had heavy rainfall just this past Monday, and we are tracking potential for another round of storms by the time we get to tomorrow night. So first things first, looking at our reported rain totals, 3.4 inches of rain reported in Embarrass. That's the highest amount we had, but even our top 10, we had a lot of areas get over 2 inches of rainfall last night into the early morning hours, and that is in addition to other damage we saw, whether it was large hail, damaging wind, and other impacts of those storms. Of course, those full storm reports can be found on our website. Right now, though, our focus is on the heat. Right now, it's 74 degrees in Duluth. That's been for Jeep Ram Tower Cam shows. But by the time we get to tomorrow, we're going to see heat index values reach up to 102 degrees. So get your AC ready, Alex.
Ooh, that's some brutal weather. Thanks for checking in on that. Well, we are continuing to monitor power outages all across the Northland due to last night's powerful storms. Now, we first updated you about this in the 6th, and as of a last check, it's been a major improvement as Minnesota Power's reporting just 1 outage affecting 1 customer, and Lake Country Power's reporting 24 outages affecting over 150 of their their members, excuse me. Now, speaking of last night, let's take a look at this video. This is a Facebook comment we got from a viewer in Mountain Iron. You can see the storm created quite the light show all throughout the Northland. Then the storms did more than just cause hail and lightning. Here's another picture that a viewer from Calumet sent in, where you can see a tree falling on top of a house. Definitely some wild weather there. Well, most of our area was spared from the extensive damage. Things were unfortunately different in Bemidji. As we've learned, the Beltrami County has declared a state of emergency. After overnight storms tore through the area, our sister station KSDP flew over the aftermath of the storm. This is being described as one of the most destructive that area has seen in the last decade. County officials there say they haven't gotten reports of anybody hurt, fortunately, but some people are displaced. 106-mile-hour wind gusts collapsed buildings, uprooted trees, and blocked roadways, and knocked out power for a lot of people.
I don't think I have ever seen a time when the entire region was out of power for a long period of time. And it looks like this might be the case, at least, for a couple of days.
We're told the American Red Cross, Salvation Army, City of Bemidji, and Beltrami County themselves are available to help those who have been displaced. More information on that can be found on our website. Now to North Dakota, where Governor Kelly Armstrong has declared a statewide disaster after 3 people were killed in severe weather on Friday. The National Weather Service reported multiple tornadoes causing damage across the state. This includes an EF3 tornado in the rural area near Enderlin, which is about an hour southwest of Fargo. Deputies say storm chasers in that area were the first to find 2 people who died in the storm. A short time later, first responders found a 3rd victim.
The storm was still active when they responded, and it was very dangerous. And to come across the scene on people that they are familiar with is a difficult situation.
Not far from Enderlin, the National Weather Service says a EF3 tornado caused damage west of Valley City, while a EF2 tornado is believed to cause damage south of Valley City. And with this severe weather causing intense damage, Bemidji police are warning about a rise in cleanup scams. Now, they say that some people are actually posing as contractors, offering to clear debris or remove trees, but taking money up front and not coming back. Police tell us if you're hiring someone for storm cleanup, make sure they're licensed and insured. A legitimate company should have no problem showing you their license and proof of insurance before any of this work begins. Well, still to come here at 10, thousands of runners made their way along the North Shore race, and friends, family, and fans were on the sidelines to cheer them on. Plus, well, today was race day. We'll hear from those Grandma's Marathon winners right after the break. Stay close.
And thankfully, we had some cooler weather for the runners. As by the lake, it was in the 60s. Up the hill, 86 degrees. That is above normal for this time of year and near a record for this time of year. Duluth had under half an inch of rain for today. But tomorrow, we're looking at widespread dangerous heat and a chance for severe weather. I'll have more details coming up.
Right now on Good Morning Northland, blaze breakout. Evacuation orders are still in place this morning as 3 wildfires devastate the Northland.
And just to see the devastation, it's unreal. And the clouds were just thick of smoke.
We're tracking the latest developments as over thousands of acres have been burned, with several buildings being destroyed. Then an update on Minnesota's manganese water problem. The good news, fewer communities are being affected than 2 years ago. But the bad news is, with a $300 million price tag, advocates say the state still has a long way to go. Plus, Cirrus continues to innovate the world of aviation. A new feature just took off, which allows to help pilots land in case of emergencies. We'll have all these stories and more right now on Good Morning Northland.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Well, good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Sierra Ness.
And I'm Leah Zamarco. Happy to be with you on this sunny Tuesday as we are still getting the last couple of days of this very hot stretch that we've been experiencing in the Northland. Hard to believe. We're kind of getting used to 80 degrees now.
Yeah, it's crazy how quick you acclimate to that. Mm-hmm. So it is, you're breaking out the shorts and it's wild. I'm not used to it.
It is kind of funny. I think lots of people's ACs have been figuring out, oh, we're going on, but by the end of this week, we'll be back down to something seasonable, so we'll get a little bit of a break. This was a test run of summer. Some people are already well adjusted. The beach was pretty crowded yesterday. I'm expecting some more faces down there today, too, because we are going to be seeing those 80 degrees a little bit later on this afternoon.
Well, you can't complain, though, with 80 degrees. I'm not used to it yet, but I'm certainly enjoying it.
Exactly. But alongside the nice sunny weather, we are still seeing some other conditions across the region, including some wildfires.
Yeah.
So taking a look at some of the photos we've been seeing, this one was taken on the Mungershaw fire, and you can really start to see that smoke billowing out of the water and continuing to move into the sky. You're also seeing the moon coming up, so there's a little bit of both happening in this photo, but very still and calm water. So thank you, Tressa, for sharing this. Hope you are staying safe as these fires are being maintained and continuing to be monitored. Taking a look right now at the Bennett Ford Jeep Ram Tower Cam. We're keeping an eye on the horizon as we are watching, seeing what's still billowing out of these fires and watching for some of that smog as we want to make sure people are staying prepared for what can be expected. Temps are in those mid 60s to low 70s as we look into this afternoon. A lot of sunshine for us to be enjoying. Wind still coming in from the southeast throughout today. And now as we take a look at the relative humidity that we are monitoring, seems okay right now, but by this afternoon when that sun's coming out and we have all that daytime heating, most of northern Minnesota will be below 25%. So we will be dropping from these upwards of 50% to 75% relative humidity to something a little bit more dry and very hot for us to be getting into. Here's those highs, upper 80s to low 90s for us yet again. We will be cooling off. We do see a promise of some rain coming through starting up on Wednesday, really ramping up by Thursday though. So widespread showers will help cool things off for the upcoming weekend.
Well, it is very hot out there indeed. Well, we start with the latest in a developing story. Evacuation orders remain in place this morning across parts of the Northland as firefighters work to contain 3 active wildfires. And this map from the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office shows who is affected. Yellow areas, be ready to evacuate. Orange, be ready to leave immediately. And red, evacuate now. With this, we've learned Governor Tim Walz has called in the Minnesota National Guard to help fight the Camp House wildfire. The Guard will support the Minnesota Interagency Fire Center with personal resources and assistance on the ground. Now here's a live look at the fire tracker site Watch Duty. The largest fire is the Jenkins Creek at 1,500 acres. Camp House fire is 1,200 acres and the Mungershaw is close behind. None of these fires are contained. The first of these fires to be reported was the Camp House fire in Alt Township. And new this morning, we've learned at least 40 structures have been destroyed as a result of this fire. The fire was first reported just after 1 p.m. on Sunday, and by Monday evening, the fire had grown significantly to over 1,200 acres. Yesterday, crews pulled lake water out of nearby Cadott and Bassett lakes to help contain the fire. And today, crews will continue their efforts to protect other structures from being affected.
We have firefighters on the ground, and they're working on what's called point source protection, which is they're looking and identifying structures that the fire could burn into and putting resources there to protect those structures as much as they can.
Officials we spoke to say they have a lot of work to do as the fire is 0% contained.
We'll just continue to focus on those suppression efforts. Tomorrow's supposed to be warm, a little cooler than today, but still those winds. So we need to really just focus on suppression, and we'll continue doing that tomorrow.
We've also learned Highway 44 will remain closed to all traffic from Hugo's Bar North to Town Line Road as crews continue to battle this wildfire. And the biggest wildfire is Jenkins Creek, slightly northwest of the Camp House fire. Initial reports estimate it is burning at 1,500 acres with, again, 0 containment. And according to St. Louis County Sheriff's Office, we know it has engulfed at least 1 structure. The Cadott Lake campground also being evacuated as a precaution. Forest Service firefighters are also responding by ground and air. We spoke with a representative from the Forest Service yesterday, and he says it's going to take some doing to get it under control, adding the weather conditions aren't helping.
It's a bit too early to kind of predict how long this might last. We are hearing in the forecast possibly rain towards the end of the week, which would really help slow fire activity down. But as the fire's gotten this large with a perimeter that will need to be basically where we're going to need to work along and mop up the fire crews to make sure. So it's going to be a several day kind of work.
Another big challenge is dividing up the resources. While additional crews are expected to help assist these fires right now, responding to multiple large wildfires like these ones strains those resources. And those resources are being strained indeed, as crews are also battling a third wildfire. This one is called the Munger Shaw Fire. This footage is from the Northland Fire Wire. The fire is in the area between Highway 53 and Highway 2 in the Canyon area. As of the last update, we've been told the Munger Shaw Fire is at least 200 acres. We also know evacuations in this fire have been lifted. We're continuing to follow these stories and we'll bring you the latest. And the weather has played a major role in how these fires started. As crews continue their fight this morning, Leah, what's the impact the weather is going to have on these firefighters? And how will the Northland see the impacts today?
Well, we're going to see temperatures very similar to yesterday, just a little bit cooler, but still with very dry air and hot temperatures alongside some gusty winds from the south. Those are the key ingredients that are used to be having some fire weather conditions around the area. So with that, the red flag warning across northern Minnesota for many of us, we are seeing that continue to be at play for us today. We are also seeing near critical conditions in northern Wisconsin, so it is encompassing the entire region, but we aren't just seeing that issued for northern Wisconsin at this moment. Taking a look at those winds we do see right now, already up to 8 miles an hour blowing in from the south, so that warm air convection is continuing to pump across northern Minnesota, and it will be coming into around 15 to 18 mile per hour winds later on today. So as those wind gusts increase, so does the potential for those flames to be fanned and spread around the region. Winds will eventually start to switch as we look into tonight to the southeast, as we get a little bit more of that easterly component for what's upcoming next, which is going to be some rain, which will help bring some relief. But we still have another active day where these flames can continue to grow as relative humidity stays below 25% along that northernmost border, where we do see a lot of those fires already existing in St. Louis County. So watching that smoke as it continues to billow, we want to make sure everyone's staying safe, keeping air quality in mind as we look into this evening, where that smog is going to continue to stretch all the way into Canada and continue to push through.
Well, thanks for breaking that down for us, Leah. And there is still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland today. Higher manganese levels in 53 Minnesota communities could cause neurological issues. How the Senate is responding after this break. Right now on Good Morning Northland, your voice, your vote. We have the results from yesterday's spring election in Wisconsin. How this election could shape the Badger State future for the years to come.
And brace yourselves for a slippery commute this morning. Winter isn't done just yet, and I got the latest on the spring snowstorm and when we can finally expect to see some relief here in the Northland.
And then it's being called the most in-depth survey for the LGBTQ+ individuals in the past 30 years.
It gives visibility to our communities in a way that we just don't have right now.
How this survey looks to help improve access to vital resources to those in the queer community. All this and more right now on Good Morning Northland.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Blowing snow, blistering winds, and slippery roads. Good morning, Northland, and thank you for joining us. Mother Nature is playing an extended April Fool's joke, giving us a spring snowstorm. So this is a live look at our Harbor Cam's Bayfront camera. And with this, you're going to want to prepare a little extra time for your commute today, as the snow is going to make for a very slippery commute across town. Here is a first look at your road conditions all across the Northland. For more on how much snow we got overnight and how long we'll have to deal with this, luckily Leah Zamerko is here to tell us all about it.
Yeah, Sierra, you say it's an April Fool's joke, but I'm still waiting on that punchline.
I know. When's it going to come?
Because we are going to be seeing a lot of this snowfall continue throughout this morning. We're going to get a little bit of a lull, but it's going to be coming right back through the midday and all the way into tomorrow morning. So we're not quite seeing the end just yet. We got to be a little bit more patient, but we got to make sure we're getting where we need to go safely. So getting right into it as this practical prank is continuing on, we can see that the snow is still pretty widespread, giving us those slick areas all over northern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. But taking a look at the satellite and radar right now, here's where we're seeing this heavy band of precipitation continue to push north, bringing that precipitation to the Iron Range and along the North Shore this morning. We are expecting that accumulation to continue to be building as we see that lull starting to fill in as snow showers are reaching Brainerd Lakes and into Hinckley and continuing to cross I-35 this morning. Temperatures staying favorable for that snow to land on the ground safely with those temperatures below 32 degrees, a lot of upper 20s in the middle here and continuing along the North Shore. We'll be seeing some fluctuation in the afternoon, and that's going to be playing a big role in what we're seeing in northern Wisconsin, and some chances for some ice accumulation sneaking its way in here. Winds coming off the lake around 15 to 20 miles an hour, especially down by the water. Seeing those winds start to slow down as we move further inland, but gusts are still strong. Seeing wind speeds around 33 miles an hour in Duluth, those mid to upper 20s in Grand Marais, Ironwood, Phillips, and throughout northern Wisconsin as well. So very breezy, very blustery, and that's bringing down your visibility. Continuing to stretch further and further inland as this morning continues. 3 miles from Duluth out to Big Fork. So make sure you use those low beams. Make sure you take your time. We are seeing that snow continue to move through and lots of drifting going on. So you want to make sure all 4 tires are on the ground at all times and take your time where you got to go. With this snow, it's not letting up just yet, Sierra.
It is not. I'm glad I didn't switch out my winter tires.
We're not there yet. Not at that point. We got to wait for some good flowers to start blooming.
You're right. Well, turning to our top stories this morning, the latest results from the Wisconsin spring election, we can confirm Susan Crawford has won Wisconsin's Supreme Court race. Crawford, a Dane County judge, defeated Brad Schimmel, who had the support from the White House. This race set spending records, with Elon Musk personally handing over $1 million checks to 2 Wisconsin voters. Crawford saying last night her victory is a win for democracy.
And Wisconsins stood up and said loudly that justice does not have a price. Our courts are not for sale.
Crawford's election means the Wisconsin Supreme Court will have a liberal majority for at least the next 3 years. The justices are expected to hear cases on abortion, public sector unions, voting rules, and congressional district boundaries. Wisconsin voters have also decided to enshrine a voter ID law into the state constitution. The Republican-controlled legislature will put the measure on the ballot and pitched it as a way to bolster election security. This protects the law from being overturned in court. Democrats argue the requirements make it more difficult to vote for people of color, along with disabled and low-income people. Then in the race for superintendent of public instruction, incumbent Dr. Jill Underly will be keeping her spot for a second term. You're looking at the results now. And we're continuing to follow several other key Wisconsin races, including school board members, town board members, referendums, and more. The latest results on all the races can be found on our website, WDIO.com. Now in the debate over universal free school meals, it's back at the state capitol. A Republican bill calls for some parents at certain income levels to pay for their kids' lunches. Currently, all school kids in Minnesota, regardless of their family's income, get breakfast and lunch paid for by the state. But the program is projected to cost tens of millions of dollars more than initially projected. This comes as the state faces a long-term $6 billion in deficit. Now, Republican Representative Andrew Myers is hoping to help this deficit with a new bill. It proposes families earning more than $150,000 to pay for their kids' lunches.
What I tried to do here is bring a pragmatic approach to, school meals, while also trying to bring that balance and focus on funding our schools.
Lawmakers still need to vote to the bill, and it will now be considered for a larger education finance bill later this session. Also at the Capitol, senators approved changes to package of bills dealing with legal cannabis. If passed, it would allow THC drinks to be sold with one serving of 10 milligrams of THC per drink. That would streamline regulations with other states, and it would also allow for municipal cannabis stores similar to municipal liquor stores. This would then legalize sampling at cannabis events. The package now heads to the full Senate floor. And turning to our nation's capital, where in just hours, President Trump is set to unveil his reciprocal tariffs against other countries. Trump calling it Liberation Day. Still, experts warn American consumers will be the ones who end up paying the most. ABC's Perry Russom is in Washington with more.
The White House says today will go down as one of the most important days in modern American history. President Trump revealing his tariffs against other countries.
I'm worried about the tariffs.
With fears Americans will end up paying more for virtually everything, the White House is now asking for trust.
You should trust what this president did for you in his first term. He effectively utilized tariffs while driving down inflation.
Trump argues the tariffs will create American manufacturing and boost revenue. Democrats call it a national sales tax.
This will be the largest tax increase on American consumers in modern times.
It's still not clear how large the tariffs will be and which countries will be targeted. One option is a 20% tariff on all imports. One estimate predicts that would lead to food prices rising more than 3%. Prices for computers, clothing, and crops could also see double-digit percentage price increases. That will lead to a cost increase of up to $4,200 a year for the average household.
Things are tough enough as it is now, and then increasing prices is going to hurt a lot of pocketbooks here.
A new poll from the Associated Press shows 58% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy, 40% approving.
You can see our markets are down, consumer confidence is down, tourism is down.
U.S. allies preparing for this escalating trade war.
We are going to be very deliberate in terms of the measures we take to fight for Canada, fight against these unjustified measures by the U.S. administration.
Experts say we will likely see shrinkflation again. That's when products are smaller and weigh less, but the prices stay the same as a way to offset these tariffs. Perry Russom, ABC News, Washington.
There's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland. Minnesota launches its largest LGBTQ+ community study in decades. Find out why organizers call this online survey a critical step for the future. Right now on Good Morning Northland, becoming a mentor can have a lifelong impact on everyone. And right now, that need is greater than ever. Find out how you can change the life of kids who are looking for a positive role model. Then, President Trump addressing a divided Congress in his first speech since taking office 6 weeks ago.
It has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country.
We're breaking down the highlights President Trump made in taking local reactions from local leaders. Plus, while we're dealing with snow and warmer temps now, our last bitter cold snap is still causing major headaches and problems in two harbors.
So between the two, we're looking at about $40,000 in damage that insurance won't cover.
The Lake County Historical Society is asking for help as they look to recover from extensive damages, how you can help preserve the vital parts of our Northland history. All these stories and more right now on Good Morning Northland.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Good morning, Northland. I'm Sierra Ness, joined by Leah this morning, and we've got a busy morning ahead. As you can see from our road conditions map, this snow system is definitely going to impact your commute today, and Leah has been tracking it all morning, so what do we need to know as we head out the door?
Well, just from a glance at this map, it's hard to go anywhere in the Northland without seeing any highlighted paths, as we have a lot of these slick conditions and snowy roads headed our way, and it's just going to continue to become an issue throughout this mid-morning. Luckily, some of us will be getting some relief tonight, but it's going to be a little bit of a ways for many of us. But taking a look at the storm track satellite and radar, we see that dark blue is continuing to pass across northern Wisconsin. That's where we are seeing that heavy snow coming through. And with the winds we are experiencing widespread across the area, it's just making for very blustery conditions that are going to be reducing the visibility for many of us. So we can see that snow is still moving through. It's going to slowly start to taper off for the North Shore by the afternoon, continuing through the northern Wisconsin overnight. But right now, here's a look at our visibility, and it's widespread less than a mile for most of northern Minnesota, stretching all the way to southern Minnesota as well as northern Wisconsin. This swath of where this system is laying is where we are seeing those blustery winds passing snow and reducing our visibility ahead of us. So as you do make your way out the door, do make sure to take your time, drive slow, as you don't want to get caught in one of these brief whiteout condition moments that could be a little bit dangerous, especially if you're going too fast or can't see where that turn is. Temperatures are staying in those upper 20s throughout today. We're going to see pretty consistent temperatures across the area as we have a lot of cloud coverage, snow and wind still staying widespread over the area. So that's going to keep things pretty uniform through the afternoon. Winds picking up into those 20-mile-per-hour range for the later part of today, and we will see those gusty conditions continue overnight and into our Thursday. However, we'll get some more chances for some clearing skies and sunshine as we round out this work week. But here's a wider look at that system, Sierra, where you can see it's just spiraling and spiraling, using up all this moisture and mixing in with that cold air, bringing us the perfect snowstorm.
Yes, it is a winter wonderland out there, Leah, this morning. Well, we start with a live look at our nation's capital this morning, where last night President Trump addressed Congress and the American people. He claimed his second term in office has already been the most successful presidency in U.S. history. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio is in Washington with more.
For the first time since his return to the White House, President Trump addressing a deeply divided Congress.
America is back.
Speaking for a record hour and 40 minutes, the president touting his accomplishments during his first 6 weeks back in office.
It has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country.
The president spent little time talking about the economy, but defended his sweeping new tariffs against some of our largest trading partners, including Mexico, Canada, and China. Economists warning those tariffs could drive up costs on things like gas, groceries, and cars. But Trump doubling down.
Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that.
The speech coming as many Americans remain on edge over inflation. Uncertainty over the tariffs continued to send markets tumbling on Tuesday. The president also zeroing in on the war in Ukraine and reciting a letter he received from Ukrainian President Zelensky after that explosive Oval Office meeting.
It's time to end this senseless war.
The address at times becoming heated. Several Democratic lawmakers repeatedly interrupted the president's speech, including this moment when Congressman Al Green stood up and yelled that Trump had no mandate just minutes into his speech. Speaker Johnson directing the sergeant-at-arms to remove him. Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin giving the Democratic response, saying his administration has no credible plans to fight inflation.
Do his plans actually help Americans get ahead? Not even close. President Trump is trying to deliver an unprecedented giveaway to his billionaire friends.
Slotkin went on to say some of Trump's policies could move the country into a recession and warned he could endanger Social Security. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
We're also following reactions from our local leaders following last night's presidential speech, which, as expected, are split along party lines. Minnesota's 8th Congressional District Representative Pete Stauber voiced his support for banning transgender men from women's sports, energy and mineral dominance, and eliminating taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security. Meanwhile, Minnesota Senator Tina Smith criticized Republican tax policies, arguing they benefit the wealthy rather than fixing the economy. We have additional statements available on our website, WDIO.com. Ahead of the president's speech, a protest was held yesterday in downtown Duluth. Demonstrators stood on the corners of Lake Avenue and Superior Street for about an hour and a half during rush hour for downtown. Those that gathered were expressing frustration with the White House and especially with Elon Musk, what they say are threats to democracy. This follows several others protesting around the Northland in recent weeks. With President Trump's tariffs now into effect on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China, be prepared to feel the impact on increased prices. Pretty much anything that comes over the border will see a price increase, like electronics and toys, as 77% of them sold in the U.S. come from China. Auto parts are also set to increase. While cars might be assembled locally, it still needs parts elsewhere. And expect to pay more to fill up your car too, as Minnesota refineries use Canadian crude oil. Gas Buddy estimates prices could rise between 20 cents a gallon or more.
When you buy gas or you buy things that are shipped by a truck using diesel, our refinery in Minnesota uses Canadian crude oil. That's our #1 import from Canada.
We're continuing to monitor how these tariffs will play out, and we'll keep you updated as they progress. Moving now to some news around Minnesota, the DNR says there are about 4,040 moose roaming the state. This is according to their recent population survey. They say it appears the number has stabilized after a steep decline from 8,000 back in 2009. Still, researchers say they remain at risk. Both the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, and the 1854 Treaty Authority are full partners on the moose survey. It is online if you'd like to learn more as well. And every kid needs a role model to show them the ropes as they grow older. At Mentor North, they pair up mentors and mentees with similar interests, hobbies, and personalities. This is in hopes of giving kids the positive influences they need. For the month of March, they're looking to recruit more mentors for nearly 60 kids who are still on the wait list. This is part of their March into Mentoring campaign.
A lot of times people think that the kids in our program are all hard kids. They're all kids that have challenges. They're all kids that come from hard backgrounds. That is not the case. And even if they did, they're all amazing kids. They all bring something valuable that they can teach their mentor. So it's not about that one kid with that one issue that defines them. They're just kids, and they just want to hang out with a cool adult, and that cool adult could be you, and that's really cool.
If you want to nominate yourself or someone you think would be a great mentor, we have a link to do so on our website. And there's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland when 2 boiler failures caused frozen pipes and flooding near historic artifacts. It caused damage. And now the Lake County Historical Society is asking for your help. Our William Lean has more after this short break. Right now on Good Morning Northland, here comes the bride, but not really. We're taking you to a mock wedding celebration held over the weekend, which looked to connect couples to vendors in a unique hands-on experience. Then we're following growing concerns about the potential loss of the federal funding to help those with HIV.
I mean, it's huge. I do not see how our state can make up for that money.
How federal funding helps those here in Minnesota, and what this could mean for crucial treatment and prevention. But first, talks of potential privatization of the United States Postal Service has many sounding the alarm.
This definitely isn't just a partisan or one group of people. Everybody uses, loves, and deserves the Postal Service in America.
We're taking you to rallies held in Duluth and Superior yesterday. Their messages on what the proposed changes could mean. All this and more right now on Good Morning Northland.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Good morning, Northland. We start this morning with a live look in Ely, where we got a hit of some snow over the weekend, alongside many other areas here in our region. Now, that snow made for a messy commute yesterday, which could linger into this morning as well. But for more on how much snow we got and when our spring weather will return, luckily, Leah is here to tell us.
Well, good morning, Northland. It is another busy Monday for many of us as we still see some slick conditions, and that snow is still wrapping up as it's now going to be making its way across the South Shore and bring additional 3 to 5 inches to the UP. So they're not quite done yet, but we are seeing some drier skies for many of us here in the Twin Ports right now.
Well, it was a little bit of a messy commute for me this morning. I don't know about you, but I didn't put my windshield wipers up, and so it was kind of a scrape and heat situation to get them unfrozen and unstuck this morning. I wasn't quite used to that anymore.
All right, well, we'll learn from Sierra's mistake. Use that remote start, kind of get yourself a leg up as you get out the door today. But taking a look around the rest of the Northland, seeing that camera still from Ely, we see where those snowbanks have really started to build up, and we still see some flakes continuing across the area. Temperatures right now are in those 20s as we are looking into these dark and early hours. We are going to be warming up from here, but what we are noticing mostly is a very breezy start. So taking a look at these wind gusts, seeing gusts up to 30 miles an hour across northern Minnesota and across St. Louis County, and working its way across the lake as we see those wind speeds stay around those upper teens to 20s. Wind speeds will be working their way down from here slowly over the next 24 hours, but we do have a breezy start to this Monday morning alongside the messy roads we're already experiencing. Temperatures will work their way to those upper 30s and low 40s as we watch those northwest winds stay just around 12 to 13 miles an hour for the second half of the day, but they're working themselves down from about 20 miles an hour right now. So here's a wide look at those highs where we do see some of those upper 30s and some low 40s across the North Shore. Still seeing that precipitation coming across in the northern parts of the Arrowhead as well as the South Shore. So we're watching this system still wrap up right now. It's going to be continuing as we do have a winter storm warning and a winter weather advisory still in effect.
Well, we will have to be extra careful this morning, Leah. Well, our top story this morning, concerns are rising over proposed talks to privatize the United States Postal Service.
It's a universal service. It's enshrined in the Constitution, and it predates our nation itself.
Over the weekend, demonstrations were held in both Superior and Duluth as part of a nationwide effort to stand firm against efforts to privatize the U.S. Postal Service. Union leaders warn the move to privatize could impact around 640,000 postal jobs, raise shipping costs, and reduce services, specifically in rural areas. Our Ethan Sherman spoke to some of the protesters about their message and what this could mean.
We are having rallies across America today in towns and cities just like this one.
Our union, along with the other 3 postal unions, are organizing these rallies all over the country to bring awareness to what's going on in Washington, D.C. with attempts to attack the post office and possibly privatize us.
The U.S. Postal Service has had a consistent deficit each fiscal year. On February 21st, President Trump said, quote, "We want to have a post office that works well and doesn't lose massive amounts of money. We're thinking of doing that in the form of a merger. It will remain the post office. I think it will work a lot better." With the discussion around the future of the USPS, hundreds in the Twin Ports voiced their concerns on Sunday.
This is a service that we provide to the people of this nation, and it is a mandate, a universal mandate that we deliver the mail to every person, no matter where they live. If we privatize the Postal Service, you can imagine that those rural people are going to be cut off. They will be more isolated, and they are not going to get their essential mail in a timely manner.
How much does someone in a different state pay for a first-class mail stamp?
72 cents.
There we go, a universal service. We're all paying the same thing to send the same mail.
This is such an exciting time because we have elected officials here, we have letter carriers here, we have people that work in other areas of the post office.
With privatization comes the possibility that packages and mail could only be picked up at the post office. Those rallying spoke about how it affects everyone.
We are talking about the people in rural areas could be affected. they would take that delivery away from them and they wouldn't be able to get important mail.
And this definitely isn't just a partisan or one group of people. Everybody uses, loves, and deserves the Postal Service in America. And so that's what we're trying to show and bring awareness to our friends and neighbors and our customers out here.
The National Association of Letter Carriers says these rallies are just a starting point.
Our big message is we want to educate our neighborhoods, our communities, our friends, families, relatives, to reach out to our congressmen and our senators and let them know that we value and treasure the Postal Service.
For WDIO News, I'm Ethan Sherman.
Thanks, Ethan. The rally in Superior saw about 50 people at its peak, while Duluth saw over 200 people. The National Weather Service is suspending use of its key tool used in creating forecasts. They are cutting back weather balloon launches in places like Omaha, Nebraska, and Rapid City, South Dakota. This will be due to staffing shortages. The balloons, usually sent up twice a day, gather crucial atmospheric data for forecasts. While special launches will still happen when needed, experts worry about the impact, especially on our region.
Basically, we're losing a ton of data right where storms form that bring us blizzards, that bring us severe weather. This is the type of data we need to make the best forecast possible.
Earlier this year, hundreds of forecasters with the National Weather Service were fired as parts of cuts by the Department of Government Efficiency. And right now, it's unclear if this is related. Some within the healthcare community are raising concerns of their own. This is over potential cuts to HIV prevention funding from the CDC. In total, they spend about $1 billion per year in the U.S., and states receive much of their portion through grants. Reporter Renee Cooper shares more on how cuts could impact programs right here in Minnesota.
I don't think people understand how really terrifying, how really frightening it is to know that it would mean that your life was at risk if you were yourself. And I watched my friends, my colleagues, and others sicken and die.
Decades later, a now 77-year-old Jeff Weinstein remembers that fear finally subsiding with the rollout of HIV testing and medications to prevent it.
And we were in tears because we couldn't believe that this pill could prevent this, and it has. And it saves lives.
Nowadays, clinics across Minnesota get money from the CDC to provide prevention services. But Weinstein and HIV policy advocate Terry Wilder worry it's all at risk.
Minnesota gets over $4.5 million for HIV prevention. I mean, it's huge. I do not see how our state can make up for that money.
The Aliveness Project tells us it receives nearly $700,000 a year in related CDC grants for things like this free HIV testing clinic a few days ago.
Prevention saves lives. Prevention also saves money. It costs, much less to provide prevention programming than it does to treat somebody.
Folks may or may not remember, but we had an HIV outbreak in Minnesota just a couple of years ago.
It's true. The Minnesota Department of Health declared an outbreak in the metro in 2020 and another in the Duluth area in 2021. Wilder also worries funding cuts could impact her organization's efforts to increase affordability and education surrounding HIV.
You can live a very long time with HIV, but if people don't know they have HIV and are not getting connected to care, they're very vulnerable to death.
And it terrifies me that friends and other people can be lost again.
Renee Cooper reporting. In his first term, President Trump launched the Ending the HIV Epidemic initiative in 2019. And as of now, no cuts have been announced. And there's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland today. Everyone has a voice worth sharing. And yesterday, the Duluth YMCA teamed up with Green Card Voices to give 3 students a platform to share theirs. Right now on Good Morning Northland, breaking overnight. New tariffs against Canada and Mexico are now in effect, and those countries swiftly responding with tariffs on their own. We're tracking what this means for you. Then an unintended controversy is unfolding in Esco over a new Mexican restaurant's name.
Tequila Town is not for tequila for drink. It's tequila for the town in Mexico.
What Tequila Town needs to do to keep their liquor license and how the community is responding. Plus, the finish line is in sight today for the mushers on the Bear Grease Sled Dog Marathon.
And that's what makes this mushing and racing so fun, right? To get to the opportunity to go somewhere new with the dogs.
Our Bailey Warfield brings us the latest as the mushers trekked through yesterday's warm temperatures. These stories and more right now on Good Morning Northland.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
We start with a first look at our storm track radar. While we're waking up to rain, that won't be the case as our team is tracking the possibility of snow and even potential ice impacts today into tomorrow. For more on what you can expect for your weather today, Leah Zamerko is here to tell us all about it.
Yes, and today is one of those days where you almost want to bring everything but the kitchen sink with you because we're starting out with some wet and dreary weather, but by the time many of us come home, it's going to be transitioned to snow. So you're going to want those layers as well as the waterproofing to make sure you stay comfortable no matter what comes your way. But taking a look outside at some of our cameras already, we are seeing those dreary wet spots as these cameras start to pop on up, and many cars are starting their morning. So we're keeping an eye on these road conditions as we are watching for where those slick spots are forming. You can see where this transition between rain and snow is starting to make its way closer and closer to the head of the lake as we do see this incoming cooler temperatures making their way over. Right now we are in those upper 20s to low to mid 30s for many of us, seeing cloud coverage remaining very thick throughout today. And with those clouds, some of them are sinking pretty low as we see that visibility reduced over in northern Wisconsin and into the UP especially. Seeing just about 3 miles of visibility here in Duluth, Hayward, and less as we continue towards Eau Claire for some more travel issues that could be coming up your way. Taking a look at these winds, we're starting off relatively quiet, but everyone's coming in from the northeast as we see this cooler air starting to blow and bluster on in. But as we take a look to our west, we're already seeing 20-mile-per-hour winds, even 25 miles an hour as we continue out towards the border. We are going to be seeing that become pretty consistent and widespread for everybody as we head into our Wednesday when these gusty winds really start to ramp up. Winds will get into those teens by this evening as temperatures make their way to those mid-30s and slowly start to work their way down. More snow will be coming in the overnight. We're going to start with that fat and wet flakes, and eventually we'll be drying off enough with these cooler temperatures to get just a few of those sprinkles on top. But we got to get through these warnings and advisories first, so a lot more to come as to what we are expecting.
Yes, and Leah, I don't know about you, but I had to break out my boots today. Definitely gonna need them.
Everyone loves dry feet, so you gotta make sure you got the right shoes. Rain boots or snow boots will do you well today.
Well, you are right. Now, despite its name, a new restaurant in Esco is serving non-alcoholic beverages with its food. Tequila Town opened in February, and when it comes to getting its liquor license, there's some quirks to work out. Tequila Town is located right across the street from the Esco schools, and according to the Minnesota statutes, it shouldn't get a liquor license as it's within 1,500 feet of a school in a township. However, previous restaurants in the building had been granted exemptions, which couldn't sell distilled liquor or beer above 3.2% alcohol content. As a new business, Tequila Town will have to apply for a new license. It has to first be approved by the town board. Yet some board members have expressed some discomfort with the signing facility of the school. This is according to the minutes of the recent meeting. Several conditions have been laid out for the approval, and this includes the changing of the sign so it does not refer to an intoxicating beverage or the use of word bar. Now, certain hours for alcohol sales are set, as well as the previous mentioned ban on certain types of alcohols, including tequila. While still, the liquor itself isn't what the restaurant is named for.
Tequila Town is not for tequila for drink. It's tequila for the town in Mexico.
Despite this, they do plan to change the sign soon. An online petition to allow Tequila Town to keep its sign as is has gathered over 1,000 signatures. Some some community members have said they'll be asking the town board to reconsider at their next meeting this Thursday. And turning to a live look at the nation's capital, where this morning, new tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico are now in effect. President Donald Trump also just doubled the tariff he put on Chinese imports last month. These developments have raised inflation fears as stocks dropped sharply yesterday. However, pre-market stock futures suggest a possible rebound later today. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio has more of the potential impact.
Overnight, President Trump imposing new tariffs targeting our largest trading partners, Canada and Mexico. Trump adding a 25% tax on all goods coming across the border from Mexico and Canada, and an additional 10% tax on Chinese products. The Yale Budget Lab estimates that the tariffs could cost the average household up to $2,000 annually. Canada responding with a 25% tariff of its own on American goods.
We are ready should the U.S. decide to launch their trade war. We will be ready. We are not looking for this. We're not seeking this. There's a level of unpredictability and chaos that comes out of the Oval Office, and we will be dealing with it.
Economists warn those tariffs are paid for by American businesses, and those costs are then passed on to American consumers by raising prices. That means it could end up costing you more to buy many household goods, including electronics, food and beverages, and oil and gas.
I suspect by Memorial Day, we will all feel the effects of the higher prices on all these different products that we import from China, Canada, and Mexico.
The auto industry is also expected to take a hit, with the average new car cost increasing by over $3,000, according to research from J.P. Morgan.
So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States.
But Trump says the tariffs are needed. He says the U.S. is getting ripped off by bad trade deals that cost American jobs. And he claims Canada and Mexico aren't doing enough to stop illegal immigration and fentanyl shipments, even though less than 1% of the fentanyl in the U.S. comes across the Canadian border. U.S. farmers could soon start to feel the pinch after China announced overnight it will impose additional tariffs of up to 15% on U.S. goods, including chicken, wheat, soybeans, and beef. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
Turning now to the Minnesota Capitol, where a new bill would delay the start date of the Minnesota paid leave law until 2027. The law was originally signed during the legislative session in 2023, which allows for employees to take up to 12 weeks of paid leave each year to care for themselves or family members. It's currently set to begin on January 1st of next year. Republicans are worried about the cost and what they call a lack of understanding among business and everyday Minnesotans. But DFLers say the program is well planned and needed now. A bill to ban transgender athletes from competing in girls' and women's sports in Minnesota schools has failed in the state house. Protesters on both sides of the issue rallied inside and outside the Capitol before lawmakers began hours of debate yesterday afternoon.
If you vote no on House File 12, you are rendering Title IX meaningless and telling this generation of female athletes they are invisible.
I'm just going to make a plea from my side to yours as the only trans woman in this body. Please stop doing this.
The bill fell one vote short of passing, but Republicans say they will bring it up again. Last week, the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said the Justice Department will take action to ensure Minnesota is complying with the recent executive order, which is banning transgender athletes from girls' and women's sports. But right now, the Minnesota State High School League says it's following state law, which allows for their participation. And it's back to business as usual for daycare providers across Minnesota after some of them closed their doors for the day without childcare. Young Minds Learning Center in Duluth was one of them. It's about getting the message out about their need for more state support in the form of scholarships and other funding. The group also rallied by Coppertop Church. One teacher at Lakeside Early Learning Center shares her story about finding care for her infant.
Infant child care spots are incredibly difficult to find, which you've previously heard from others.
And while I was pregnant, another teacher at Lakeside was also looking for an infant spot. And luckily, LEL was willing to look into adding an infant room.
Childcare on the range also participated and held a rally over the 169 bridge in Virginia. And there's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland. The Bear Grease Marathon is still on, and with yesterday's warmer temps behind them, racers are headed with full speed towards the finish line. Our Bailey Warfield has an update from the trails up next. Right now on Good Morning Northland, Bayfield County deputies have a powerful new tool to assist during mental health crises. In fact, they are the first in the state to use this program. Find out how Avel is changing the way they respond to emergencies. And as food shelves continue to see an increase in demand, new cuts in federal grants to the USDA are leaving many shelves worried.
When those grant funds go away, we will no longer be able to purchase from local producers.
How the loss of federal grants will impact shelters and farmers who benefited from this program. But first, the President Trump's tariffs are sparking pushback from major trading partners. How this could impact American goods and the economy, plus new poll numbers on the president's handling of tariffs. All this and more right now on Good Morning Northland.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Sierra Ness.
And I'm Sabrina Ullman.
Yes, filling in for Leah this morning, bright and early. Sabrina, how are you getting used to it? You were just here.
It was.
Is it getting better?
You know, we always say dark and early,
Yeah.
not bright and early. It's not, you know, it's hard to get up before the sun, and then
Yeah.
it's hard to sleep while the sun is still out. So
It is. I always have pop an eye mask on.
Yeah.
Helps a little bit, but luckily with daylight savings, it's getting lighter a little bit earlier.
It is, yeah.
But-
There's a little
yeah.
bit of variety with daylight savings and, you know, not saving daylight, but you get an adjustment if that's what
Yeah.
you like for this time of year. And, you know, still dark out. We get the later sunset, which I always like the later sunset when I'm not doing the morning show.
Yes. See, I liked the earlier sunset, but
yeah,
we see.
Yeah, it's been a little bit foggy as we start our day, taking a look at conditions at I-35 and 29th Avenue West. Much better than it was even just an hour ago. We're already seeing some improvement in this area. We can see more lights, more cars. We can see, Lifty on the Benefort Jeep Ram Harbor Cam with a whole 2 miles of visibility. It was under a mile earlier. So we're already seeing that fog start to dissipate. Still seeing some calm winds. So we'll see some lingering fog still in that same area towards the Duluth Harbor, towards Superior. Rest of us, though, is seeing some clear skies. So we just have that dense fog advisory for Douglas County in effect until 10 a.m. And it's really those areas that are close to the lakes. We have had a little bit of a lake breeze moving over the land that's kind of causing that fog. That's going to clear out once we get into that daytime heating. It's going to dissipate pretty quickly. Right now we're seeing few flakes of flying towards Lake of the Woods. We do have a chance of some light snow for today, but that is going to be very minimal. We're not looking at much as far as that is concerned. It's going to stay near the international border. We're not looking at accumulation. And then we get into tomorrow. That's when things are going to get interesting. We're going to have a chance of severe weather. We're going to have a chance of some pretty gusty winds, heavy rain, and then we're going to get into chances of snow. So we have a little bit of a roller coaster as we end the week. I'll have more details on that in just a little while, Sierra.
Thanks, Sabrina. Well, we start with turning the latest to your money. Stocks on Wall Street had a better day yesterday, and this is after encouraging inflation data showed prices for goods and services in the U.S. were up less than expected in February. Now taking a look at how the stock market closed, as you can see, there's finally a little bit of green on the S&P 500 finishing up, and the Dow Jones closed with a loss of 82 points, while the NASDAQ climbed 212 points. Now with this, major trading partners are hitting back at President Trump's 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel. Overnight, Canada imposed tariffs on U.S. goods, including steel, aluminum, and electronics. The EU plans to raise tariffs on American beef, bourbon, and motorcycles next month. Meanwhile, the CNN and SSRS polls show that 61% of Americans disapprove of the president's handling of the tariffs, and 56% say they do not approve of how he's handling the economy overall. Yet the president dismisses their concerns.
On tariffs, there's been a lot of on and off, some inconsistency.
It's not called inconsistency, it's called flexibility.
A majority of Americans also felt Elon Musk does not have the experience or judgment to change how the government works, and that the administration's cuts to the federal government will go too far in cutting key programs. And we've been keeping a close eye on the stock markets and how it's reacting to the new tariffs of the economy. Now, we also know it's creating lots of anxiety and uncertainty for lots of people. And many of us at home have investments in the stock market. Now, we asked our financial expert, Barry Bigelow, on what these sudden changes could mean for you.
And so we're starting to see that swirl a little bit. This is why the government actually put in a circuit breaker in the stock market, so that on a daily basis, the stock market can't drop too much before they pause trading and kind of let cooler heads prevail.
The Dow is down 3% this year, but Bigelow says there's still time for a rebound. He adds, while the market drops and declining sales can shake confidence, he says they don't necessarily mean a recession is coming.
The reality is the confidence of the American people right now in the last week isn't high. That can change in a day. Okay. And so it's a situation where if you're invested and you have questions, it's probably best to work with a financial advisor who can help kind of pull some of the emotion out of the details.
We have additional coverage and information, including statements from our Northland representatives and the latest round of tariffs on our website, WDIO.com. Now, turning to the latest at the Minnesota Capitol, advocates for gun safety rallied yesterday calling for more action. They say it will save lives. They highlighted bills passed last session, like universal background checks, and a new bill they're supporting that would set stricter standards for shortage of firearms.
As long as we choose gun industry profits over children's lives, blocking every attempt at these common sense gun safety legislations, families lose children to preventable violence.
Last session, Republicans argued that these bills are overreaching and will make it harder for Minnesotans to use their Second Amendment rights. Additionally, indigenous groups are urging state lawmakers to pass additional wild rice protections.
We've drained the wetlands through ditching tile drains. We've dammed other areas. We've transformed wetlands into agriculture lands. We've deforested, and there are tons of environmental changes that affect the wild rice.
The Wild Rice Protection Act would increase protections for Minnesota's wild rice waters. Advocates say it's critical to biodiversity of the state's freshwater ecosystems and is deeply tied to the cultural identity of Minnesota's tribal nations. The bill is currently making its way through the legislature. Now we're shifting our attention to a now growing need for food in our community. A recent report says about 1 in 5 residents in the Northland don't have enough money to afford food for their families. Now that's roughly 70,000 people who experience food insecurity on a daily basis. Now, Second Harvest Northland says northeastern Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin have a higher rate of food insecurity than the state averages. But with all this increased need, many Minnesota food pantries and schools are now having to look for new ways to buy food. That's because the U.S. Department of Agriculture is cutting COVID-era programs that encouraged buying from local farmers. Eric Shalou explains what's behind these cuts.
At the Keystone Community Food Center in St. Paul's Midway neighborhood, products are going on the shelves.
The number one thing people want are produce items, so fresh fruits and vegetables.
Julia McCarthy with Keystone Community Services says a federal assistance program helps them buy food directly from Minnesota farmers.
We really need those grant funds in order to make this a reality. So when those grant funds go away, we will no longer be able to purchase from local producers.
Keystone, other community groups and schools learned that program won't be funded in the future. A U.S. Department of Agriculture spokesperson wrote in part that the decision to end the COVID-era programs is marking a return to long-term fiscally responsible initiatives, adding USDA is prioritizing stable, proven solutions that deliver lasting impact.
I think it's short-sighted now to dial it back, because I think that we are making progress for farmers, for food banks, and for schools.
Minnesota's Agriculture Commissioner Tom Peterson says $18 million from the USDA was anticipated this year. Several hundred Minnesota farmers and producers benefited from the programs.
Diversifying our food system, and this is what this does, is it helps give schools, child care centers, food banks some options that are local.
It means less food.
Back at Keystone, staff are making plans to look for other ways to fill the shelves.
Food insecurity is increasing in our community. It's not always visible, but we know that the numbers are going up by how many folks are coming to us for assistance.
Eric Shalou, WDIO News.
Minnesota's Agriculture Commissioner says they are looking for other ways to fill the federal cuts at the state level. And there's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland. Bayfield County deputies are now teaming up with a mental health expert in the field. They're the first in Wisconsin to use this program, and we'll have more details when we come back. Right now on Good Morning Northland, it's time once again to head to the polls in a special election for Minnesota Senate District 6. The message the two candidates on the ballot want you to know as they look for your vote. Then today marks President Trump's first 100 days in office for his second term. While he celebrates several of his promises made from the campaign trail, there's still growing worries on the lasting impact of the trade war, what this could mean for the next time you go and shop for groceries. Then in Minnesota politics, we're one step closer to a complete state budget. The details in the latest budget resolution that looks to keep several influential education programs funded. We'll have all these stories and more right now on Good Morning Northland.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Sierra Ness.
And I'm Leah Zamarco. Hope you're having a great start to today. We're really starting to feel some spring sunshine on the horizon. It's getting us a little bit more excited. We got a little bit of a pep in our step as we are getting out of that wet weather and looking forward to some dry conditions.
We are. And it's kind of fun to have some rainy weather on the productive days. We'll take it on a Monday. We'll be productive, and then as the week starts going through, it seems like we're going to have some sunny days, so that's exciting.
I'm excited. I think lots of people will be out and about come Wednesday. Then Friday and on, I think you won't even find anybody in their house. I think everyone's going to be trying to find an excuse to stay outside because we just need sunshine here.
We do.
And sometimes it feels like it's a nice treat. We get a lot of other chaotic weather.
We deserve it.
Yes. Well, taking a look right now at our satellite and radar, we can see what's still pushing through this morning, as we did see quite a busy day yesterday. The whole Storm Track weather team was here in-house getting ready for whatever was to come. Luckily, we didn't see too much pushing up towards the Northland. We did see a lot more of the effects coming across just south of our region. So we are happy everyone is safe and ready for the next day because we get some sunshine next. So taking a look, we do see a lot of those stormy conditions coming across. And here's a look at the recent rainfall amounts we did start to see coming through the Northland. Heaviest of that rain did reach across St. Louis County and stretching into Lake and Cook at the tip of the Arrowhead. That northern border did exceed about 2.5 inches of rain over the course of the last 18 hours. And taking a look at some people's rain gauges, we saw lots of viewers sharing what they were experiencing outside. About 4 inches of rain over in Deer River, Minnesota. Right now, as we take a look at Grand Rapids, starting to diminish that drizzle as we get into this morning. And we even saw some thunderstorms continue to pop up throughout the morning as well as the evening hours. So that lightning did strike a tree and split it for AJ Hoff over in Squaw Lake, Minnesota. So keeping that in mind as many of us do go, as we do enter this severe weather season of thunderstorms that it does pack a punch. So just make sure you are staying safe. And as we head into today, taking a look from our tower cam, 34 degrees right now with a little bit of a drizzle continuing to carry across the Twin Ports. We'll soon be brightening up and seeing that sun come out as we get to around 7:30 a.m. and that'll carry us into the next stretch. Sierra?
Thanks, Leah. Well, with yesterday's round of severe storms that quickly moved through Minnesota, well, much of the Northland missed out on the severe weather. We still saw several thunderstorms all throughout the day. This video a viewer sent to us on our Facebook page, and you can hear the small hail falling on their house early yesterday morning. And take a look at this picture. This is from a viewer near Biwabik, and they say they saw 3 inches on their rain gauge at 7:30 last night, signaling the heavy amounts of rain that fell with yesterday's storms. And finally, this incredible video sent to us shows lightning hitting one of the antennas in Duluth yesterday at around 10. And we're keeping a close eye on a developing situation following yesterday's round of storms. Several Northlanders are without power this morning, and Minnesota Power says there are 3 outages affecting 402 customers. Lake County Power reports 3 outages affecting 30 members. We'll continue to follow this all throughout this morning. And while the Northland managed to escape the worst of the storms, that wasn't the case for southern Minnesota. As you can see behind me, this is just some of the damage left behind after a barn was destroyed between Faribault and Kenyon in Rice County. Our sister station in the Twin Cities captured the video. You can see the widespread destruction from the roof ripped off a building, trees snapped in half, and some uprooted. The debris from the farm flown hundreds of yards away, and we've learned that no one was hurt there. The National Weather Service says it received at least 2 reports of an observed tornado near Faribault and just north of Iowa border in southern Minnesota. A tornado was also reported to have touched down near Eau Claire, Wisconsin. One father and son who had to pull off the interstate given the intensity of the storm had this to say.
It's like dealing with a wild animal, you know. It's like you're out in the wilderness and something's coming at you, and it's you know that you need to take care of yourself, put yourself in a safe spot. That's kind of how it feels like a wild animal, a large animal coming at you.
Back to the damaged barn in Faribault. Now we're told the home is still standing and everyone's okay. We'll be keeping tabs with the National Weather Service to see whether or not a tornado was the one that ripped off this in the area. And in just a few hours, the polls will open once again for a special election in the race to fill the Senate District 6 seat. The seat was previously held by Justin Eichhorn and follows the Republican primary 2 weeks ago. Voters in Cass, Crow Wing, and Itasca counties will have to choose between Republican Carrie Heitzman and Democrat Denise Leipy. Now, ahead of today's special election, we spoke with both of them. Hear their priorities if they were the ones representing the district in St. Paul.
Our education system is under fire right now. We need to support our teachers. We need to support our students that are learning. We have to get the cost of living down, the taxes down to where people aren't being taxed out of their homes. You know, it's time for those that can afford it to pay their fair share.
Time and time again, I heard the need for a strong economy, fiscal responsibility, and confronting the woke agenda in education coming from St. Paul. I'm a lifelong conservative, and I've fought hard over the years to protect the values that are important to our communities.
Stay tuned to WDIO.com and our mobile app, as we'll be tracking the latest special election results as they come in. We will also be breaking down the results during our evening newscasts. And we're taking you to a live look at our nation's capital this morning, where today President Donald Trump marks his 100th day in office for his 2nd term. We've learned he will hold a rally in Michigan, one of the key states that switched the Republican candidacy last year. And the news of his 100th day in office comes as some economists are warning tariff-related shortages are on the way in the coming weeks. This as the trade war with China shows no signs of easing. Asset management firm Apollo forecasts container ships from China to U.S. ports could come to a stop by mid-May. This followed by a halt in trucking demand, leading to an empty store shelves. The firm predicts layoffs in the trucking and retail industries by early June and even a recession this summer. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says it's China's responsibility to reach a trade deal with the U.S.
I've repeatedly said that I believe that it's up to China to de-escalate because they sell 5 times more to us than we sell to them.
China insists there are no talks on trade between President Trump and President Xi. A spokesperson from Beijing writing, "Let me make it clear one more time that China and the U.S. are not engaged in any consultation or negotiation on tariffs." But Trump and his administration suggest negotiations are underway, though have offered few details. As President Trump marks his first 100 days, watch WDIO News tonight at 7 for the ABC News special, President Trump, the first 100 days, as ABC's Terry Morgan interviews the president in the Oval Office. And in world news that we're following, Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to win Canada's election. Carney's victory cements the Liberal Party's decade in power, replacing former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who had been leading the country since 2015. In a victory speech before supporters in Ottawa, Ontario last night, Carney stressed the importance of Canadian unity in the face of the threats coming from Washington. He also slapped back at threats from the U.S. President Donald Trump about making Canada the 51st state if he was elected.
President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen.
And on the other side of the aisle, Canadian Conservative Party leader responded to President Trump's proposal, saying the president should stay out of our election, adding the only people who will decide the future of Canada are Canadians at the ballot box. And there's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland today. Many gathered at Duluth's Labor Temple yesterday for Workers' Memorial Day, how they honored those who lost their lives on the job. Coming up next.